up 16%. The 2026 preliminary homeless count, or K count, in McCracken County reveals a problem that isn't going away. If anything, it's getting worse. Earlier this year, 177 people in McCracken County reported themselves as homeless. But that phrase, homeless or unhoused, can mean lots of different things. 133 of those 177 were sheltered, meaning they're living in emergency shelters or transitional housing programs. The other 44 are unsheltered, meaning they're staying in places not meant for human habitation. Think garages, sheds, or outside. It's easy to forget these numbers represent real human lives right in our community. It's that line of thinking that led us to this episode, what we're calling Faces of Homelessness. It's the real people and stories battling the issue itself and the stigma around it, like the stereotype that they have no job, are on drugs, and sleep outside.
They just act like we don't try. We try and try and try. We can only do so much. I think it's a lot with the community, with all the new regulations they got going here and there.
What I learned, the faces of homelessness look just like me and you.
You have to understand that people are people. Everybody out here had a career. Most of us had some form of education. There are a few people who've been in the system and they've lived on the street their whole life, but by far not all of them.
On this month's episode of the Crossroads Suncast, the factors driving up homelessness rates nationwide and at America's crossroads, and what gives hope to people living through it in our region. I'm Ariana Allen. Let's start with the major drivers of homelessness nationwide and the ways those filter down to local communities. The broader affordability crisis is one key element. The National Alliance to End Homelessness highlights a lack of affordable housing, weak income growth, and insufficient social safety net, and the end of COVID-19 relief funds. Those funds temporarily expanded assistance programs through the pandemic. The government also paused evictions during that period. Here's Shay Raybould with the Kentucky Housing Corporation.
People become homeless for a variety of reasons, but at the core, of course, it's they don't have a place to stay that is affordable to them.
Raybould says they see a lot of homelessness driven by domestic violence, job losses, and a lack of support system. Think a family member or a friend to crash with while you're between housing situations.
Most people are facing some type of economic challenge and a lack of a support system to be able to help them through that crisis period.
Substance abuse is a common issue, as is a lack of access to treatment. According to the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, about 1 in 5 unhoused people who regularly use drugs or drink heavily want treatment but can't access it. Previous incarceration is another common cause. Every year, 50,000 people are released from jail or prison and become homeless. Homeless people are 11 times more likely to be arrested, creating a cycle that's tough to escape. The Safer Kentucky Act, which took effect in summer 2024, makes street camping a Class B misdemeanor. Over the course of its first year in effect, the Kentucky Center for Economic Policy finds 425 unlawful camping charges under the law. People struggling with homelessness can face a $250 fine for repeat offenses. There's a similar ordinance being discussed in Carbondale, Illinois, which we'll get to. Broadly, spending any amount of time unhoused makes it tougher to get back into the housing market. Over the last few months, I've been in touch with a couple in Paducah struggling with homelessness. Here's what the husband, Bobby, told me in December.
It started 8 months ago that we got kicked out of the house that we were originally living in. And we tried to find us a place right away, and we couldn't because of background and credit check and no dogs. We had 2 dogs at that time. Now, it's been going on for probably about 8 months trying to find a place. With my background, it's hard. Nobody wants to give a person a second chance. They always think, oh, the person's going to do it, so they're going to mess it up for everybody else.
Bobby said he'd struggled with drug addiction in the past, but was able to overcome it.
I've been clean through from methamphetamine for 4 years. And not only me, it's been a struggle because every time we try to go and find a place, they sit there and say we can get in. And it's like, no, because your criminal record.
Maria, his wife, says the stigma around homelessness just isn't always the case.
It's depressing. It really is. And it's a shame because I have a full-time job.
Maria works full-time at a local nonprofit, but Bobby's records make it hard to find a stable place for them to live.
So a lot of my coworkers will say, it's sad that nobody will give you a chance, help you out because all you do here on a daily basis, day in and day out, Monday through Friday.
The couple says money isn't the central issue holding them back.
One that, once a drug head, they always say you're always will be a drug addict. That's not always the case. I hold a full-time job, but since I haven't had a place to live in 6 months, 7 or 8 months, they want to you can't afford to get a place. Well, I can, but nobody wants to give us a second chance.
For them, homelessness doesn't mean living on the street or panhandling.
We started living in the back of the truck, and she lived in another vehicle for 6 months.
But when the weather gets bad, it can be tough.
We can't put a tent up nowhere. We can't put a camper in somebody's yard so we can stay and get out of this weather. Because my health, whenever I get cold, I get really sick. And I have to be where it's kind of at least decent, not freezing temperatures, but like 65 degrees, I'm fine. But if it gets below 65, I start having a hard time breathing.
Another central issue for these two, their service dog. Many emergency shelters don't allow pets, which makes it hard when it gets really cold.
Our dog is through the doctor's office. His doctor's office for Four Rivers did a thing for him and have an emotional support dog. So we have medical reason to have her, but still, like the warming center, they won't let us have her there.
While the cold is a hurdle, they say stereotypes are too.
It's really hard to really explain, but the stereotypes just make you like you're lazy, you don't want to, can't keep a house, this and that.
We ain't only looked in McCracken. We've looked in Marshall. We looked in Calvert City, Livingston County. We've looked in Kelville. We've looked everywhere for a place. Nowhere's wanting to rent. We've looked on Facebook, and half of them's a scam on Facebook.
Well, I did pick up those pieces, but to better myself, to have my own apartment, have a roof over my head, and to make things happen with only what I get a month, and I make it happen. I try to make it happen in every category that I possibly can.
Kenny Gabriel is a local musician, but the cadence and tone of his interview feels closer to a gospel preacher.
Whether it's getting a job and having, money in their pocket, or, and yes, I'm on SSI, I'm on disability, but I look for I'm looking for a better alternative than just that. I'm looking for ways to get out of the what I call the miry clay, and to make even bigger and brighter things happen.
Trying to make it in Nashville as a young man, he spent time couch surfing without a permanent home. Today, he still struggles, though he does have a place of his own. He says a lot of his difficulties are rooted in past trauma.
It was all because of abuseness and the torments, and the beatings, especially moving to place and being told that you're not good enough, being told that you're not wanted, you don't belong. When struggling in those environments and struggling to hold on, that's the key today, is to hold on. Hold on with everything you got, and don't give up, because I'm not a firm believer about giving up.
The Trump administration is making major changes to federal policies on homelessness.
Our once great cities have become unlivable, unsanitary nightmares, surrendered to the homeless, the drug addicted, and the violent and dangerously deranged.
That includes shifting funding away from long-term housing and into programs with work and addiction treatment requirements. For context, the prevailing approach has been what's called housing first. That means getting people into reliable shelter, then offering treatment for addiction and mental health disorders. Trump signed an executive order in July of last year, making it easier to confine people in mental health institutions. Under the Trump administration's plan, the Department of Housing and Urban Development will not automatically renew existing programs programs, and the agency is expanding funding for religious groups. In November, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear and 20 other governors sued over the changes. In Kentucky's biggest city, the changes could result in 1,000 people ending up back on the street. That's according to the Coalition to End Homelessness in Louisville. Illinois is responding to federal changes with an expansion of state-level funding.
I don't want to sugarcoat any of this. I'm not going to. So here it is. The MAGA Republican administration in Washington is attempting to turn back the clock.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker announced a $2 million investment in permanent housing programs in that state on December 15th. That grant funding goes to housing programs across the state through Home Illinois, which provides housing to more than 11,000 people across the state.
Homelessness does not have a single cause or a single solution. Our work reflects this complex reality.
Complex, a word also being used as homelessness, is debated in Carbondale, Illinois.
The truth is, to call this a complex issue would be to do it a disservice.
Last month, the Carbondale Council considered banning public camping within city limits. It applies to sleeping on a sidewalk, street, alley, under a bridge, and more.
There are so many different viewpoints, and in the big picture, as much as we may feel that our viewpoint is the only valid one, the most immediate, most important thing, because it's our survival.
The ordinance also says a person sleeping in their car would only be able to sleep on public property for 2 consecutive hours.
If I sleep for 2 hours and then I set an alarm and I wake up and I drive to another safe driving location, I can then sleep for another 2 hours if I want to put myself through that. It's completely unreasonable. It does no good. Honestly, the only genuine benefit would be to someone who wants to punish the houseless in this town.
The ordinance was discussed at length, but not voted on. There's no timetable on when it could be brought back up for a vote. Phelps says homelessness isn't just a simple fix.
It's a problem that each community is going to have to take care of itself. It's going to have to experiment. It's going to have to do things that haven't been done before, because nobody else is going to help us.
As of early January, Bobby and Maria, the couple who you heard from at the beginning, found a place to live in Hickory, Kentucky, a message of hope for others who are fighting the same battle. This episode has explored misconceptions and stigmas surrounding homelessness. I asked Lacey Bowling with Paducah Cooperative Ministry, what does she wish people knew about homelessness?
I think there's a common misconception that these are problems to solve. These people are burdens, that these people are issues to deal with. But the way a lot of these nonprofits talk about this population is these are our neighbors. You know, last year in McCracken County, we experienced 9 deaths to people who were sleeping outside in the elements. These are people who are parents. These are people who are born and raised in McCracken County. These are our people. And so I just wish that they would be treated as such.
Bowling says our lives are more fragile than we might realize, and we have more in common with our unhoused neighbors than we might think.
It's so quick how you can become homeless. One lost job, one medical bill. It's so quick. One hospital stay, one life event that you didn't anticipate. Many people, whether we admit it or not, are very, very close to this situation, as it were. It's not just people who are experiencing substance use disorder. It's not just that.
Support on this episode from Bryce Patterson, former host of the Suncast, and senior executive producer Morgan Regal. Additional reporting by Zoe Lewis, video and sound by Tajon Bumphus and Ethan Patterson, editing by Brian Clapp. Thank you for listening.